How you doing there? Welcome back to Babylon Talmud. Today we're studying Daf Kuf Samach Vav, Daf 166 of Masechta BavaBasra. 166. That means only 10 Daf left. Masechta BavaBasra, the longest Masechta in Shas. Gewaldig. Okay. I think what I'd like to do today is get from one Mishnah to the next Mishnah, which is be'etzem a daf. I was going to say a daf and a half, but it's kind of like a daf and 3/4. But it's like almost 2 daf. But the thing is, if we get there, that would just be awesome, because then we can start with the new Mishnah tomorrow. So I think I'm going to try to do that. Let's see what happens. I think I'm going to try. It basically means we're going to do also Kuf Samach Zayin Amud Aleph. And we also have like a bunch of Kuf Samach Hey Amud Beis. Okay, look, there's also somewhere to stop at the top of Kuf Samach Zayin Amud Aleph. So we'll see how it's going. If we're going at a good pace, maybe I'll just try to get to the Mishnah at Kuf Samach Zayin Amud Aleph at the bottom. That way we could start with the new Mishnah tomorrow. We'll see how it goes. Okay. We're going to start at Kuf Samach Amud Beis at the Mishnah, about 10-15 lines from the bottom of the daf. Kuf Samach Amud Beis at the Mishnah. Kosuv bo zuzin meya de'inun sloyin esrin. You hear that? If you have a document that says that Reuven owes Shimon 100 zuzes, which are 20 sellas. The problem is that it's 4 zuzes in a sella. Okay? So 20 sellas is 80 zuzes. So those don't add up. On the one end it says 100 zuzes. On the other end it says 20 sellas, which is 80 zuzes. So kazabo zuzin mei, if it says 100 zuzes, the inun sloyin esrin, which is 20 sellas, which is 80 zuzes, ein lo elo esrin. So you can only claim the lesser amount, which is 80 zuzes, right? Ein lo ela esrin, meaning right 20 sellas, which is 80 zuzes. Zuzin me'edinu tlasin sloyin. If the document says 100 zuzes, which is 30 sellas, okay, and now 30 sellas is 120 zuzes. So on the one hand it says 100 zuzes, on the other hand it says 30 sellas, which is 120 zuzes. Nochamol ein lo ela mono. So you can only collect 100 zuzes, the lower amount. Kesef zuzin de'inun v'nimchok. If it says silver zuzes that are, and then it's erased. So we don't know how many silver zuzes, how many zuzes. So ein pachos mishtayim. Well, minimum of plural of zuzes is 2. So 2 silver zuzes. A zuz is a dinar, 2 silver dinars. Kesef sloyin de'inun v'nimchok. If it says sellas and then it got erased, so how many sellas? So again, ein pachos mishtayim. Minimum is 2, so 2 sellas. Darkonos de'inun v'nimchok ein pachos mishtayim. Nochamo. If it says darkonos, but it doesn't say how many, so minimum is 2. Kosuv bo milamayla mono umilamata masayim. If at the top of the document it says 100 zuzes, but later on the document it says 200 zuzes, milamayla masayim, or at the top 200 zuzes, umilamata mono, but at the bottom 100 zuzes, hakoholik achar tachtin, you go based on the lower amount, meaning the amount that's lower on the document, not the one that's less money, but the one that is, meaning if there's if it's higher up on the document and lower down on the document, so you go by the one that's lower down on the document. Imkin lamakos v'neselyin. So then why do we have, if we go based on the lower location amount, so then why do we have an upper location amount? Shem timochik os achas minat tachtin yilamed mino elyin. Well, because if a letter goes missing from the lower value, we're going to learn about it later. For example, Hanan and Hanani, if the yud is missing, so if it said like Hanani at the top but Hanan at the bottom, so we would assume that it's Hanani, just is missing a letter. So we repeat it at the bottom, so that if a letter goes missing, we have a reference from the top to kind of figure it out. Azoi. Says the Gemara, Tanaban the Rabbastot, Kesef, you can skip the word Kesef. Kesef ein pochis mi dinar Kesef. So if the document says silver, so it means 1 silver dinar. Kesef dinrin vidinrin kesef, ein pachus mishnei dinrin kesef. Okay, so if it says silver dinars or dinars silver, so 2 silver dinars. Kesef bidinrin. Now, if it's kesef bidinrin, what it means is ein pachus mishnei dinrin zahav kesef. So that means silver that is the equivalent of 2 golden dinars. Okay, that wait, well, let me 1 second. Because yeah, come on, yeah. The kesef bidinarin mashma ploni shav shnei dinar and okay. Because of kesef bidinre, yeah, shnei dinar and shal kesef. Okay. Bidinarin. Yeah. Okay. Okay. It says silver. I think it means silver dinars. Let me just check quickly. So I don't know that it necessarily means silver dinars as opposed to silver. Meaning. Sorry, it's like a little bit confusing. So I will explain what I mean. Is that when it says kesef bidinrin, ein pachus b'shnei dinrin za dahav kesef. What it means is enough silver that is the equivalent of 2 golden dinars. Again, if it says kesef bidinrin or bidinarin, dinrin or dinarin? I feel like dinarin. Yeah, kesef bidinarin. So what it means is, so dinarin is a reference to golden dinars. So kesef bidinarin meaning kesef, silver, that is the equivalent value of dinarin, which is 2 golden dinars. So enough silver that it would be the same value as 2 golden dinars. Okay, so the equivalent of 2 golden dinars worth of silver. We just said kesef in pachos midinar kesef. When we say silver, it's no less than a silver dinar. Maybe I'll say it's an ingot. It specifically says a coin. Okay. Maybe it's prutas. It's a place where they don't really have too many silver prutas. Prutas, by default, I believe, are usually copper prutas. Okay, if it simply says gold, in pachus midinar dahav. Okay, so it's a golden dinar. Dahav dinrin v'dinrin dahav. If it says gold dinars or dinars of gold, so in pachus mishnei dinrin dahav. So it's 2 golden dinars. Dahab bidinrin. So ein pachus mi b'shnei dinrin kesef dahab. So it's 2 silver dinars worth of gold. We said dahab in pachus mi dinar zav. When we say gold, it's a golden dinar. Ema naska. Maybe we'll say it's a golden ingot. That it specifically says a coin. Be'ema prite, maybe it's golden prutas. Prite the diver le'av the inche. There's no golden prutas. There's no golden prutas. Again, I think basic prutas are copper prutas. Apparently, in some places you might find silver prutas. Right? The prutas are like pennies. They're like the smallest thing, right? So you're not going to have golden prutas. Okay, fine. Zahav bidinrin. So we had said that when it says zahav bidinrin, so ein pachus mi b'shnei dinrin kesef zav. So zav b'dinrin meant 2 silver dinars worth of gold. Ve'ema daiva pricha b'trei dinrei daiva. But maybe what it means is, so we said that when it says zav b'dinrin, it means 2 silver dinars worth of gold. But maybe what it means is 2 golden dinars worth of pieces of gold. So Amar Abai says Abai Yad Bal Ashtar La Tachtona. That the one who has the document unfortunately has to settle for the lower amount. So therefore, if we're talking about the value of 2 silver dinars or 2 golden dinars, it's going to be the value of 2 silver dinars. So Iochi Reisha Nami, right? Basically replace the whole parentheses with ihachi reisha nami. But if that's the case, then the reisha also, right? In the reisha we said that kesef bedinrin meant 2 golden dinars worth of silver. But if we're saying that we always go based on the lower amount, and we're saying dinrin could be silver dinars, then it should be silver dinars, not golden dinars. Rav Ashi says, Rav Ashi, reisha the cost of dinrei, save the cost of dinarin. Well, in the reisha it says dinrei, and dinrei are golden dinars. In the sefer it says dinarin, which are silver dinars. Matemra the shiny ben dinrei le dinarin. And how do we know that there is a difference between dinrei and dinarin? That dinrei is golden dinars and dinarin is silver dinars. The Tanan that we learn in the Mishnah, isha shayu alea safek chomesh leidos. So if a woman unfortunately miscarried 5 times, and each time we were uncertain if it was actually a valad that that she would have, right? Of course, when a woman gives birth, so then there's dmei tuma, dmei taira, and then at the end she brings a korban. Now that's only if there was a valad, there was an actual child that was miscarried. So if it's determined that there was a child that was miscarried, so if we're not sure if there was a child, if it was considered a child that was miscarried, so I guess if it was developed enough, so then, so if we're not sure, so then she has to bring a korban out of suffix. So if she has 5 suffix of these korbans to bring, because she miscarried 5 times, so suffix chamesh zivos, or if she is uncertain if she's a zava, right? A zava is, we'll learn about this in Masechta Nida, which we're getting closer and closer. I mean, 5 years in, Masechta Nida is the last Masechta in Shas. It's already not that far off. But Be'etzem, right, when a Mida Oraisa, when a woman sees Dam, she's a Nida for 7 days. After that, for the next 11 days, so then if she sees Dam 3 consecutive days in those 11 days, so she becomes a Zava, and then I believe she has to wait 7 days without seeing any Dam at all, and then she brings a Korban. So if she's not sure if she saw these 3 days within her time of being a Nida versus the 11 days, so she would have to bring a suffix korban, and again, if she has 5 of these instances of suffix that she has to bring korbanos for. So mevia korban echad, so once she brings already one of the korbanos, ve'ochelas bezvachim, she could already, she's already considered Torah, she could already eat korbanos. Vein sha'ar alea chova, and because we're talking about suffix, so there's no obligation to bring more of these korbanos. But if she had 5, if she definitely had to bring 5 korbans for 5 children that she had, or if she knows for sure that she was a zava, and this happened 5 times, and she therefore owes 5 korbanos, mevia korban echad, so once she brings one of the korbanos, she could already eat korbanos. But she still has to bring the remaining korbanos. Now, there was a maise that a pair of birds is called a cane, a cane. Now, this is there's a whole masechta which we're going to learn. It comes up right at the end, right? This year, the big avodah is that we're going to finish Seder Nezikin. After Nezikin comes Seder Kodshim. At the end of Seder Kodshim, there's Mishnais. It's called Mishnais Kinim. It's 3 prakim, and it talks all about different what's the word I'm thinking of? Different probabilities of different birds getting mixed up with each other. It's a very technical Mishnais. People like to say that it's really hard. It's definitely not easy, but as we know, Chaver, what's the hardest? At least in my experience so far. Anyways, but it's not easy. But look, at the end of the day, I've also said, I probably said in the past, Masechta Eruvin is considered one of the really hard Masechtas. What about Masechta Sukkah? The first 2 prakim of Masechta Sukkah is Be'etzim Eruvin. Well, that was pretty hard stuff, but nobody says that Sukkah is the hardest in Masechta, because how hard could it be? It's 50 pages, So I feel like Masechta Kinim, at the end of the day, like, it's 3 prakim. How long do you do it in the Daf Yomi? It probably takes 3 days. You're done with it. So It's hard. It's 3 days though. You've done Bava Metzia for 4 months. Alright. So, where are we? So there was one time that these pairs of birds in Yerushalayim, Mamish, like to bring, because these korbanis, right, Shnei Torim or Shnei Bnei Yonah, 2 doves or 2 turtle doves, maybe? So one is a chatas and one is an ola. But there was so much demand for these birds that they were costing 2 golden dinars for a pair of birds. That's outrageous. Right? Ma'aseh amdu kinim b'Yerushalayim b'din rezav. There was a ma'aseh where to get 2 birds in Yerushalayim cost 2 golden dinars. So we see that dinrei is zav, right? Reb Shimon ben Gamliel says, Reb Shimon ben Gamliel, so this must be Reb Shimon ben Gamliel, Reb Shimon, the son of Reb Gamliel Hazakin. We learned in Masechta Shabbos, in the I think it was Daf Tesvav, that at the end of, I think maybe it was the last 100 years of Bayis Sheni, maybe, you had Hillel, his son Shimon, Rabbi Gamliel Hazakin, and then his son Shimon, which this must be the Shimon that we're talking about, Shimon Gamliel. They were the Nesiim during the last 100 years of the Beis HaMikdash. If I'm not mistaken, we'd have to look it up. I think it's on the Tesvav Masechta Shabbos. So Amr Shimon Gamliel Hamo'in Azeh. He basically made a shvua on the Beis HaMikdash. He says, not under my control or whatever, not under my watch. Im olin alayla achu bedinrin, that by the time I go to sleep, the price of pairs of birds is going to be 2 silver dinars, not 2 golden dinars. Nichnas lebezdin, Rav Shimon Gamliel went into Bezdin, v'limed, and he taught ha'isha shayu aleh chomesh leidos vados, chomesh zivos vados, that a woman who needs to bring 5 korbanos for giving birth, or 5 korbanos for being a zava. So mevia korban echad, she brings 1 korban v'ocheles b'zvachim, she could already read korbanos ve'ein hashara le'achova, and she doesn't have to bring the remaining ones. And by doing so, he cut the demand for these pairs of birds, allowing the price to go down. And due to that enactment, the price of these pairs of birds went down to 1/4 of a dinar for a pair of birds. So we see in that anecdote, though, that they were initially dinrei zahav, 2 dinars of gold, and then he made it into he said he was going to make it into 2 dinars of silver. In the end, it became 1/4 of a silver dinar. But we see that there's that dinrei is zav and dinarin is silver. Azoy. Okay. So we had said in the Mishnah that if you have an amount that's at the top of the document, it says one thing, and at the bottom of the document it says another thing. So you go based on one on the bottom. So why do we mention the top? Well, because in case the bottom is missing a letter, you can reference the top. So Tanu Rabbanan, the rabbis taught, Yilmar atachtin min ha'elyin be'os achas avalo b'shtei osis. Right. So the Mishnah had said that if at the bottom of the document it's missing 1 letter, you could reference it from the top. So we're saying davka if it's missing 1 letter, right? So again, Yilmar hatachtim min ha'elyin, we'll learn the bottom from the top, be'os achas if it's missing 1 letter. Avalo b'shtei osis, not if it's missing 2 letters. If it's missing 2 letters, then you can't reference it from the top. Kigon chanon mechanoni. For example, if at the top of the document it says chanoni, but at the bottom of the document it says chanon, it's missing a yud, va'anon me'anoni. Or if at the top of the document it says anoni, but at the bottom it says onon, again, missing a letter yud. So then you can learn out the bottom from the top. Mashna shtei osi is dilo. 1 second. Why is it limited to 1 letter? Why can't you reference from the top if it's missing 2 letters? Well, Misrami Shem ben Arba Osius. Well, because what if we're talking about a name with 4 letters? Vavale Palge Dishma. And if we're saying that if it's missing 2 letters, you can reference from the top, it's missing half the word. And still we're going to reference from the top, that's too much. If that's the case, Osachas Nami. But shouldn't we be concerned also about if it's missing 1 letter? Dilma Misrami Shem ben Shtei Osius, Vavale Palge Dishma. What if you have a name that's only 2 letters? And then like Don. So if it's missing one letter, so it's missing half the word too. So ela shtei osios hainu tam. The reason why, if it's missing two letters, it's too much, is because dilma misar meshem ben shalosh osios v'avale ruba dishma. Well, because if you have a name that is three letters and it's missing two of them, well then that is the majority of the name. So, and that would be too much. But half, I guess, would be okay. And therefore, meaning, so if it's missing one letter, then it's acceptable. Because even if it's a two-letter name and it's missing one letter, then it would still be okay. But two letters is not acceptable, because then if it's a three-letter name, it'll be missing the majority of the name. Okay. Rav Papa says, Papa, Pshitali seifel milamala v'keifel milamato akol olech achar tachton. Okay, so Rav Papa says, look, if at the top of the document it says seifel, and the bottom it says keifel, I don't remember what a seifel is, like a container or something, and keifel is like clothing. But the point is that so akol olech achar tachton will go based on the lower one, which is keifel. But Rav Papa asks keifel milamala, if it says keifel at the top, v'seifel milamato, and seifel at the bottom, mai michashin lezvuv olo teku. Basically, the question is, if it says seifel, if it says kefel at the top with a kuf and seifel at the bottom with a samech, are we concerned that maybe like a fly came and somehow inverted the letter to make it look like a samech, even though it's really a kuf? We say teku. We say ich weiß nicht. How dahava? Where are we at? Yeah, you see, we're basically done with the daf already, and we're only like 20 minutes in. Which is why I think we can get away with just doing a push to the Mishnah. We're almost done with the daf. So if we just do a push, I think it'll be another 5-10 minutes. If we like push to get to the Mishnah at the end of Kuf Samach Zayin Amud Aleph, I don't even think it's going to be a particularly long episode, and that we can start with the Mishnah tomorrow instead of having to start a new Mishnah in the middle of the daf. Fine. Ahu dehava kosav bei shis mea v'zuzah. There was a document that said 600 and a zuz. So 600 what? And a zuz. Shocher of Sherevia Kamid Abai. So if Sherevia sends to Abai, Shis Mea Istire V'zuzah, does it mean 600 selas and a zuz? Now a sela is 4 zuz. So 600 times 4 is 2,400 zuzes. So 2,401 zuzes. Odilma Shis Mea Prite V'zuzah. Maybe it means 600 prutas and a zuz. Now it's 192 prutas in a zuz. So be'etzem 600 prutas would be something like 3 zuzes. So Omar, so 3 zuz, so 600 prutas and a zuz is something around 4 zuzes. So is it 2,401 zuzes, or is it around 4 zuzes? So Omar le tal prite. So Abai says, look, okay, it's definitely not talking about prutas. To lo kazve b'shtara ta'asuche maskendu. You wouldn't write 600 prutas in a document, because you would just, instead of 600 prutas, you would write, so it's 192. So 600 prutas would, I guess, be 3 and 24. So 3 dinars and 24 prutas or something. So you would write 3 dinars and 24 prutas. 24 prutas would also be, it's 8 prutas in a isar. So it would be like 3 dinars and 3 isers or something like that. So you'd write that. You wouldn't write 600 prutas. So it's definitely not talking about prutas. Umash velu zuze. Umash velu. Okay. So umash velu zuze probably. We would probably whatever. We would merge them together and make them into zuzes. My omart meya. I hope I'm reading it. Did I read that correctly? 1 second, let me just. Yeah, exactly. So my Omar, shis me istre v'zuzah. So maybe you're saying that it is 600 selas and a zuz, so 2,401 zuzes. Yad ba'ala shala tachtona. No, we're not, because the if there's any uncertainty, so the one with the document, the person who has the document collects the lower amount. So it would be be'etzim 600 zuzes and another zuz. So it would be 601 zuzes, not 2,401 zuzes. Abai says, so if somebody wants to validate his signature in Bezdin, but he's not coming to testify about his signature, what he could do is he could sign his name. He could sign a document and submit that document to Bezdin, and then Bezdin could compare the signature that he submitted to the signature on the document, and then say, okay, Givaldik, yeah, this is the same, this is his signature. Right? So meaning if he's not going to come in and say this is my signature, he could just sign a piece of paper and let Bezdin compare the signature on the paper to the signature on the shtar and validate his signature that way. So again, Ayman de boy limach vechsimus yode bebedina. If somebody wants to show his signature in Bezdin, lo lachve besoif megilta. Don't sign your name at the bottom of a blank piece of paper, piece of parchment. It's basically you're writing a blank check. That would be a very silly thing to do, to just sign your name at the bottom of a piece of paper. Anybody could just take that paper and say, the undersigned needs to pay, I, the undersigned, need to pay Shimon $1 million. It's not a smart thing to do. Vitnan, and we learned in a Mishnah that if Shimon produces a document that has, let's call him Reuven, but let's say that Reuven's the one who's showing his signature. If Shimon can provide a document with that has Reuven's signature on it that says that Reuven owes him $1 million, well then Govim Nechasim B'nei Chorin, Shimon can collect from Reuven's Nechasim B'nei Chorin. So therefore, you should not sign at the bottom of the page, sign at the top of the page so that nobody could write anything on top of it. Okay. How Bazbina the also the Kamid Abai, there was a certain Jewish toll collector who came before Abai, Omar Lei, and the toll collector says to Abaye, Nechze limar chsimos yodei, Abaye, how about this? I'm the toll collector. I collect the tolls on the Brooklyn Bridge. Now, I don't think that there are tolls on the Brooklyn Bridge, but who cares? I collect the tolls on the Brooklyn Bridge. And he says to Abaye, why don't you sign your name on a piece of paper, and I'll put it in my files. And that way, if ever anybody's visiting you, so let's not call it the Brooklyn Bridge, let's call it the Pumbedisa Bridge. The Pumbedisa Bridge. So he says, Abai, why don't you sign a piece of paper, and I'll put it in my filing cabinet. And then whenever anybody comes to visit you, if you want them to be able to avoid paying the toll on the Pumbedisa Bridge, so just write, say, hey, let this guy through without paying, and sign your name, and I'll compare the signature to the signature that I have on file that you're going to sign for me right now, and if it matches, I'll let them through. So again, there was a toll collector who came before Abai. Amalei says to Abai, why don't you show me your signature, right, and sign a paper for me, that when the rabbis come, and they'll show me your signature, right, I guess, asking to avoid paying the toll, I'll let them through below michsa without having to pay the toll. So Abaye started signing at the top of the paper, right, so that there won't be any shtick. But the toll collector was tugging on the paper to make Abaye's signature be lower down on the paper. That way he could write whatever he wants above it. To which Abaye says, sorry, Buster, too late. The rabbis already acknowledged that the signature needs to be at the top, not lower down, so that there's no possibility of shtick. Abai says, Abai, mitlos vad eser, from 3 until 10, lo lichtov besov shita, do not write at the end of the line. Meaning, if at the end of the line, on a document it says tlos, well, a sneaky person can just then add, right after that, yud and nun. If it's in the middle of the line, it says tlos, and then it says other words after it, so then if you add a yud and a nun, it'll be too smushed. There won't be enough room to just add letters in the middle of the line. But if it's at the end of the line, somebody can just sneak in yud nun, and tlos, 3 becomes tlosin, 30, or arba becomes arbin, chomish becomes chamshin, etc. So from 3 until 10, don't write it at the end of the line, because somebody can be dishonest and just add yud nun at the end and make it mean a lot more money. Ve'i isrami lei, and if it turns out that you're naturally writing a document and the word tlos, let's say, ends up at the end of the line, so what do? So nehadra ledibure train tlos zimne, he says, well, okay, if that's the case, then just make sure that, over the course of the remainder of the daf, you repeat the amount that it's of the shtar. You repeat the amount that it's for. Because inevitably it'll end up in the middle of the line. Meaning, if it says tlas at the end of the line, so just make sure that while you're writing the rest of the document, make sure you remember to repeat how much the document is for, and inevitably one of those times would turn out to be in the middle of the line, and you would be able to see what the real value is, because there wouldn't be any tampering in the middle of the line. There was a document that said a third of an orchard. So the person went, as somebody who had the document was dishonest, he got rid of the roof and the floor of the letter Beis. So basically it was Tilsa Ufardesa, Vishavya Ufardesa, which basically means now he's claiming that I'm not just owed a third of the orchard, but rather a third of the entire garden plus the entire orchard. So also the comment that Abai came before Abai Amarle, he says, my taima raviach le alma lehai vav. How come there's so much space between this vav and the word pardesa? The answer is because it was originally a beis, and he just got rid of the top and the bottom of the beis, and he erased it, and therefore there's a lot of space between the vav and the word pardesa. So Abai realized that this person was being sneaky, and it said tlasa bipardesa, not tlasa ufardesa. So kafte v'odesa, he tied him up until he admitted that he was being a shmendrik. There was a document that said the portions of Ruvain and Shimon who are brothers, and they had a brother whose name was Ache. So the person with the document added a vav before the word Ache, so now it says the portions of Ruvain and Shimon as well as Ache's belong to me. So now he gets all three portions, not just Reuven and Shimon's. Also, the comment that Abai came before Abai Amalei, he says, my time adochik le alma l'haivav. Why? How come that's so squished between Shimon and Ache? Why is this vav? There's no space. It's way too squished. Kulei. Why? It's way too squished. Why? It looks like maybe somebody was trying to squeeze something in order to get another portion. Kafte v'odeh, so he tied him up until he admitted it. There was a document, and signed on the document was Rava as well as Ravacha bar Ada. Also the comment, the Rava came for Rava, Amarle, and he says, Dein chsimos yoda didi, he says, yeah, look, that looks like my signature, but Miru comment of Acha bar Ada lo chsime li meolam. But I would never have signed before Ravacha bar Ada, he's older than me. I would never have signed before him. I would have had him sign first. So therefore, this can't be a reliable document. Kafte v'odeh, so Rava tied him up until he admitted it. Omerle b'shlama didi zayavta, and he says to the forger, he says, okay, Seder, I understand that you forged my signature, fine. But Ela Rav Acha bar Ada, dirasis yode echi avadet. How did you forge Rav Acha bar Ada's signature? He's older, his hand shakes. How did you get such a shaky signature to be correct? So Amar Anchi Yadai Amitzra. He said, well, I put one hand on I think maybe some rope that you use to cross a river, and it's kind of shaky and movie. Or he stood on some kind of pouch that stores water. I don't know, something that would make him be shaky, and he got all shaky. Alright, friends, that was Daf Kuf Samich Vav, but also parts of Kuf Samich He and Kuf Samich Zayin of Masechta BavaBasra. Hope you enjoyed. Peace out.